All right, I got some cool tricks to show you on these parabolas that you can figure out without really even doing any math. So right off the bat, you look at your value for A that's sitting right there. If that is positive, you already know this parabola is going to open up. So it's going to be a parabola that looks like this. Now, if this same value for A on the next problem is negative, it's going to open down. So without doing any math, you already know an idea of what your parabola is going to look like. Now here's two other little things you're going to have to find on this homework assignment. We got maximum points, minimum points. So you got a maximum value, a minimum value. All right, so let's say your parabola was opening up, and right there's your vertex point. What you got here is a point that's at the bottom of your parabola, so this is the lowest it goes. So this is what's called your minimum value. So if your parabola is going upwards, this is the bottom. This is the minimum value. Kind of the other direction, let's say your parabola was opening down. Well, your vertex is up here at the top of it. So it's at the top, it's a maximum value. So part of what you're going to do on this assignment is you're going to have to figure out whether you have a minimum or you have a maximum, and then you have to determine what the value is. So these are some cool tricks to know without even doing any math. Let's do some math. Okay, let me just put one up here. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's call this number 5. Let's get an f of x right here. 2, 8 minus 6. 2x squared plus 8x minus 6. Okay, with this, you're going to have to find 5 different things you're going to have to find. We're going to start off with stuff we know. Axis of symmetry, vertex right off the bat. So stuff we do know. I think I'm going to do those cool tricks though. I mean, look right here, cool trick. There's this 2 right there that's positive. That's a positive 2, so already I know this is going to open up. It's going to look like that. And since it's got a point down here at the bottom, my value, when it's going to decide is it a maximum value or a minimum value, like I already know, it's a minimum value. And then here's a free cool trick when you go to graph this. Nobody really knows this move. On the end out here is a number. There's no x attached to it. Minus 6. This turns out to be your y-intercept. So where your graph goes through the y-axis, intercepts the y-axis, it's right there at -6, 0, down 6. So again, we haven't even done any math, and we know all kinds of stuff. Aha. All right, we put it off long enough. Let's do some math. Let's get all this out of the way. Okay, so we've got A equals 2, B equals 8, C equals -6. So we have this formula for axis of symmetry. Now we've done this. We're going to grab our A value, throw it in the bottom, B value, throw it in the top, what we can come up with for axis symmetry. So B equals 8, A equals 2. So going across, looks like you're going to have -8 over 4, which is equal to a -2. Okay, so what we found off right now, x equals -2, that's going to be my axis of symmetry. So that's one of the 5 things you got to find. All right, let's plug that back in and let's get our vertex point. Let's get it for y. That'll also help you. All right, let's do this. So we've got y equals, we're going to drop this x equals -2 in there. So to find your vertex point and also your minimum maximum value, substitute that back into your problem. -2 drops in, -2, -2, ha ha ha. All right, question for you guys. If you have a -2 and you square it, does it stay negative? Does it turn positive? It's positive. So this becomes a +4, whenever you multiply it back in there. So here we go. So y is equal to 8 minus 16 minus 6. Got a little bit of math to do here. What is that, negative 14? Yeah, I think so. Negative 14. Now the negative 14 gives us a couple things. It's pretty nice. It's part of the vertex, and it's going to be our minimum value that we're asked to come up with as well. All right, guys, so mark that down. Y equals negative 14. Let's make the big list of everything you've got to find. Big list coming. Okay, here we go. So we're supposed to find 5 things. Axis of symmetry, vertex, we got to find our maximum or minimum value, then we got to find domain, and we got to come up with the range. So we've got domain going left, right, we got range measuring up, down. Let's sketch a little graph, and then we'll come up with our 5 answers. Ooh, this is going to be nutty on our graph right here. I believe the vertex point was -2, -14. So let's just say you have way down here, boom, -2, -14. And then you had that little trick I showed you, the y-intercept was 0, -6. You can put that about right there. There's 0, -6. We have our axis of symmetry coming straight through here. And then just on the other side of that is this point too. Okay, so from the very beginning, we knew our parabola opened up, and we knew we had a minimum value. Let's get the parabola. Man, that is one ugly parabola, but we're going to go with it. So I've got my picture drawn. I've got my parabola. I've got my axis of symmetry, x equals -2. Now I need to fill in this answer box. So axis of symmetry, x equals -2. My vertex, we found it, -2, -14. Now on the maximum minimum value, we know we're at the bottom, got nowhere else to go but up. So this is a minimum value. And where the minimum value is, all the way down at 14. So that was a cool thing to plug back in because you found part of your vertex and your minimum value. Now domain is always about how far left and right am I going. So with parabolas it's easy. It just keeps getting wider and wider and wider and wider. It goes both directions. So domain for a parabola is no trouble at all. It's going to be all real numbers. So on these problems on this assignment, that's the domain every time. Now range, you got to be careful. This is measuring how far up and how far down you go. Because this bottoms out right here. It's got nowhere to go but upwards. So the bottom of this is -14, and then it just keeps going up. So how you can write that for your range, you can just say y is greater than or equal to -14. So you've got to find 5 things. You've got to find axis symmetry, vertex point. You got to find a maximum or a minimum value. Then you got to throw in all real numbers for your domain. Hunt on your graph, figure out your range, whether you're going up, greater than, or if it's going down, it's a less than. And then we've got my most excellent graph. This is probably the worst parabola I've ever drawn. All right, let's try one more of these big, massive problems. We'll get one going down. Hopefully I can redeem myself. All right, let's do another one. All right. Call this number 6. F of x, boom, -2x squared plus 16 plus 3. 16x. All right, and what we've learned is some cool tricks, like right off the bat are fun tricks for this. So we can look right here. We see that is a negative. We see it's a negative, so already we're like, oh yeah. That's going to open down. So it opens down. It's going to look like this, which means your vertex point is at the top. So this is going to be a maximum value. So when you got to find your minimum or your maximum, we already know it's a max. And we know it opens down, so we've got an idea of our graph. And then there's this cool trick on the end out here. That's our y-intercept. just kind of tucked away, hidden up there. So my y-intercept looks like it goes up 3 before it hits the y-axis. So you've got to feel for your graph before you even do any math. All right, let's do some math. Let's get all this out of the way. So A equals -2, B equals 16. Boy, this is going to get big. Okay, so we start off with trying to just find our axis of symmetry. Plug in for A, plug in for B, do a tiny bit of math. A, -2, B, 16. So we have -16 divided by a -4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So we get our first answer. Now this is good information. X equals 4, we know that's going to be your axis of symmetry. That's also going to be half of your vertex. So we're going to use this 4 to plug back in and find the rest of what we need for the problem. All right, plug back in time. So got y equals 2x squared 16x plus 3. So we're grabbing this 4 and we're dropping it into the problem. All right, 4 going in. Here we go. -2, that's 64 plus 3. So 4 squared, that's 16. So this is -32 plus 64 plus 3. What is that? 32 plus 3 is 35. So this y equals 35 is good information for us also. That's going to be the other coordinate of your vertex point. So we know +4, +35, that's going to be weird to graph. And then we know it's going down, so this is going to be maximum value is going to be 35. So when you're looking at the 5 things you've got to find, this helps out with 2 of those. All right, let's make the list. All right, list it up. So at the top of the list, axis of symmetry. Next up, vertex. Then we got to find whether it's a maximum or a minimum value. We've got to come up with the domain and the range. Yeah, I like looking at my graph before I do domain and range. So let's sketch our graph. Wow, that graph's going to be big. All the way up to 35. Ooh. So let's say right here is just where my graph starts. Then I got to go over 4 and up 35. Okay, that is looking good. And then somewhere down here, I think it was 3, was what was going to be my y-intercept, where my graph hits the y-axis. All right, let's get an axis of symmetry coming right through here. I've got that. I'm going to reflect this across. And then our goal was to be a better parabola than what I drew last time, which was horrible. Let's see if we can get better this time. All right, here we're bringing it up, bringing it down. There we go. All right, looks a little better, a little better. So I've got my axis of symmetry, x equals 4. I've got my y-intercept. I've got my vertex point. I'm ready to answer all my questions. All right, first question, axis of symmetry, got it. X equals 4. Second question, vertex point, 435. Third question, kind of two-parter, is it a max or is it a min? Oh, it's way up here, it's at the top. So it's definitely going to be a maximum value. So my max value, and how high up did it go? 35. So the 4 is here and here, 35 there and there. And domain again is how far left and right does your graph go? Like, well, it's going to keep extending left and right forever. So the domain is the same for all of our problems today, all real numbers. The range you got to be a little careful with. You got to decide, is your range at the top going down or is it at the bottom going up? So we're at the top, we're at 35, but it's everything going down. So you want to write y is less than or equal to 35. Okay, one problem, 5 things to find, lots of cool stuff for you today.